There we
Yes,
go.
sir.
There we go. We're back with Big Lou again. What to do with Big Lou? He's got his own channel, as you guys probably know by now. And he's got a story, and we've been on this series with him. So let's continue where we left off there.
Yeah. So when we left off, I was telling you guys how anytime any directives, anytime any embracements, any enlightenments, anything, any accused, anything within your people's, how we do it on paper. And I did a full one. I ripped the full one out. A little sloppy here, but I was doing it fast, and I did it in the car. But on the top here, I don't know if you guys can see it. This opens up like the old-fashioned scrolls. I demonstrated that last video. You know what I mean? You open it up. It comes under your door on a fishing line. You guys fish it in. It's wrapped up tight. Don't like this. And then you open it and you read it. So this one at the beginning says to TO and then two little periods, new arrival. So that would be me if I just got there. FR from the casa, that means the house. The date 10/10/22, and then the reason RE, it'll say NAQs ones, and that'll be the first set of NAQs stand for new arrival. The Q stands for questionnaire, number one, and it'll be the first couple of questions will be like number one, full name, number two, date of birth, number three, CDC number, California Department of Correction number four, county of offense, number five, what your sentence was, and then so on and so forth. And then eventually it'll get to, have you been to prison before? And then they want to know every yard, every building, and 3 to 5 names of homeboys you were there with. And then if you don't answer those because you've never been to prison before, then you won't get the NAQs twos, because the number twos is all prison related questions. And so it's kind of like the third degree in a sense, man. They treat you real jacked up. I mean, you know, as far as you're not allowed to walk around by yourself. You're escorted by two other homies. Any razors, like if you're in a dorm with the locks, they take your lock from you. They take all your razors from you just in case. And you know, you never know. Some guys will go there just to try to take out one of the homies. Like say if something happened, they're holding a grudge about something. So you're escorted around until you're finally at least partially cleared.
All right, I got a few questions about this because, you know, Missouri is kind of different. But I have seen those scrolls before when I was in the hole. Somebody passed me a kite and I could barely read it. It was so small. I mean, it was just it wasn't a question thing like you said. It was just, they had a bunch of shit telling me about another dude. And I mean, it was amazing that it's real long and so small, you know. And but what I wanted to get to you about,
Right.
you really the only time we keistered things is when we was going to the hole, you know. Some people keistered things on the yard, but it wasn't necessary. It wasn't like a requirement. But what I wanted to get to you about, a lot of people, and you probably know who they are, talk about Wes Watson. And they said, you know, if he was in Nevada, he didn't have to hoop things. Maybe in California, but it didn't happen in Nevada. So I wanted to know your intake on that.
Wes Watson, he's from California. Did you say he's from Nevada?
Well, somebody said something.
No, Wes Watson's from California.
He's from California, but somebody said he did time.
Yeah.
At one point in Nevada. And somebody else.
No, what he was he was sent to Oklahoma because I think it was Oklahoma or Arizona for a while there. California prisoners were being sent because of overcrowding. We were being sent to Arizona, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and might have been one more. And they were sending guys, and you were just with California guys. You weren't mixed in with the prisoners from that state. It was just California. It was a private prison.
Oh,
that's
wow.
What he was talking about when he talks about that riot, that he wasn't. Yeah, his people weren't even involved in that riot. I think 3916, I think he was actually there when it happened. If not, one of his homeboys was there and he was in contact with him. But
he took no part.
Yeah, Wes, he embellishes a lot. No, it wasn't even, the whites had nothing even to do with what was going on. It was like, I think it was the blacks and the others, or if it was not the blacks and the others, it was the blacks and the Southerners. I'm not sure really. It was one of those, but no, the whites weren't involved. And he kind of told the story like, he kind of told the story where they were involved somewhat, like they caught the tail end of something. But
Right.
yeah, he's not a, I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do 10 years, but he embellishes a lot of stuff. The paperwork, bro. I mean, yeah, it's always good to have your paperwork because it's probably quicker for you to get
Oh,
clear
yeah.
with your people. But everybody knows this. Everybody knows the system, man. It's not like you'll get your paperwork when you get it. It's not like you'll put from your end. You'll push the
Right.
you'll push whatever paperwork with the Department of Corrections that you have to with your counselor and all that to get the paperwork. But when you go to the hole, you're going to get a paper that pretty much that same day. If the incident is more towards the evening, for sure in the morning you're going to get a paper which is called a 114 lockup order, and that's the reason you went to the hole. Okay, right. So you'll at least get cleared from your people on that. While you're back there, you didn't lock it up, and then eventually once you get your property, you'll get some of your paperwork, and it'll show you can show them your history, because we get a paper. We also get a paper from when you're in reception. It's called LSS, your legal summary status sheet, and it shows all your like arrests and stuff like that. It clears you of rape, clears you of arson, it clears you of escape, and then you also got your 128 from committee actions, and that's it. That same thing. It shows everything you've been arrested for, even if you weren't even. Eventually, the stuff got dropped. It still shows it. You know what I mean? So you're gonna eventually get all that. So all that stuff about taking his driver's license with him, that's all.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's all crap.
I kind of thought so,
yeah.
but I couldn't.
And he ain't gonna be yelling at people. Yeah. Yeah. He ain't gonna be yelling at people like that either.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that, but it's something that I don't speak on.
We got a little bit late.
I don't speak on it because I was never out there. Well, I never did time there. But I will tell you an instance. They put me in a cell with this guy, and I knew we was in Farmington, and I knew him for a while. But what I didn't know is I knew him longer than I thought I did. But anyway, they put me in the cell with him. I had to go to medical or somewhere, so I put my paperwork out on the desk so that when he came in, he could see it. And so when I come in, he's sitting there, and he goes, Harv, I don't need to see your paperwork. He goes, I was at the walls with you. And I'm looking at him, I don't remember you, dude, at the walls. And he goes, hold on a minute. So he pulls out a bunch of pictures. You see all these guys? He said, you recognize anybody? I said, yeah, I recognize me. He goes, there I am right there. He looked like a completely different person, and he was laughing. He goes, yeah. And he goes, back then I had hair and a beard, But
yeah. So that I mean, that's usually if you're like, say that guy's in your, say, how he was already in the cell and you went to his cell.
Right.
So what happens is he'll tell you, okay, give me your, let me see your paperwork. He'll look over it, and then he'll send it down the line to the guy who has a position that does all that, the security position. I'm not going to put the whole name out there, but the security position. And then what he does is he checks it against everybody that's on the bad news list, and he makes sure you're not on there. It's called the BNL, the bad news list. But now with all the technology now, a lot of guys have cell phones, especially guys that are in positions in prison. They're able to make calls and download. They might have a site where they can download your everybody's history to make sure they ain't got no funny stuff. I personally haven't seen that because I wasn't when people had phones last time I was in there, but it wasn't that many phones. It was maybe 2-3 homies had a phone, and that was between the whole yard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, the keystering thing, man. Everything when it comes to like that paper I showed you, if you're there's some positions where you have to hold on to those, because what happens is you send a filter around, and there's some directives on there about to make sure that people read it, right? And then what you might have on the back is a checklist where they check off whatever the name they're going by or whatever so these things, we call them canas, right? And you'll have a code, and it might be on the back, whatever your code is, and you check it off, boom. And then what happens is later on down the line, you say, oh, I didn't know that we had to do this, or I didn't know we had to do that. Well, that person in position would be like, well, didn't you get the so-and-so filter? No, I didn't get it. And then they bust it out, and then they say, well, here's your code right here. You checked it off. So you mean to tell me you didn't even read it then, right? And that's how guys get caught up. But that person in that position is going to be holding on to all this, gang intelligence, as you call it, right? Within their people. So that stuff has to be at all times secured, man. There's no such thing as putting it in your sock, putting it in your under your mat, under your mattress, in your rolled up mattress, in your mail. Nah, because if you get caught with that, you're gonna be in trouble with your own peoples. You know what I mean? Because one of the biggest things that they're on is security and awareness. You know what I mean? So everything, if it even weapons too, you never take your weapon. Your weapon's always supposed to be secured, and that's keister. So taking it to the hoop, you know, unless you're ready to use it. And like I had mentioned in another video, they train you. You get trained on how to drop it in your cell. You know, drop down, get it out. You
Right.
know, and then you got to do what you got to do then. But
See that
you train on how to do it right in your cell. You know what I mean?
see in Missouri, they do a lot of hooping and keystering, but it's not necessary to walk around in the yard like that, you know. But I got an email from this woman one time, and she's saying, "How could my son in the hole get stabbed?" Because she said that's what happened. I said, "Well, somebody keistered a knife and took it down into the hole. You know, that's how that happens. You know." And she said, "Well,
Right.
I was
And,
wondering
and since you brought
how do what."
since you brought that up, before the way it used to be here was everybody went to group yard, right? So
Right.
if you were a Latino from up north, you would go to yard with blacks, you would go to yard with northerners and blacks in the hole, and then the southerners and the whites would go together, and it was a group yard. You know what I mean? But what happened was there was too much violence happening on the yard. Guys were getting removed with weapons and such. And what they did was they built kennels and they put dog kennels on the yard now. And now you just go into the kennel by yourself, or if you have a cellie, you go in there with him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it kind of it alleviates a lot of the, you know, where they have to deal with so many people. Everybody's already locked away, so they just got to deal with the two in the cage only. So because of that, and then if you're an actual validated member of one of the four big groups, uh, you couldn't have a cellie because guys were getting on their cellies after they turned bad. Somebody, you know,
Right.
but now those guys ain't even in the shoot no more. They all got kicked out because of they won something in superior or Supreme Court. I don't know if it was a state Supreme Court or if it was the federal, the big, you know, the main one. Because I'm pretty sure if it was the main one, then everybody would have been kicked out the shoes across the nation. So I think it was just state, Supreme Court of California. But all those guys are on the yards now. Guys have been in the hole for 30 years, 35 years, 25 years. They're all out on the yard now.
Right. Well, you know, in Missouri here, I guess it started about a year or so ago. They actually started in 2018 when they took tobacco out of the Missouri State Penitentiary, but it started getting real bad, and people were starting to get stabbed over phones and stuff. You know, they was having fights and stuff over the phones, and so now they got them these tablets, so they can make phone calls from their tablets now. You know, so you know you mentioned earlier about them. Yeah, so it's real easy.
Yeah, so I've seen that.
Yeah, if you want to check on somebody, it's real easy. You just make a phone call. You know, you don't have to wait, or you know, you can do it anytime you want. In fact, I'm waiting on a phone call now, but I don't know if he's going to call or not. But yeah, a lot's changed since I got out, and I've only been out 6 years.
Yeah, I've been out 5. I got out 5 July of 2017. But what I was gonna say was they were having tablets in there.
Yeah.
I had ran into a guy that I haven't seen since high school, you know, and we're at the time 38, 39 years old, and he for some reason he said, "Hey, I got a tablet, I'll slide it to you." I wasn't interested in it, but one day here it comes under my door. So I started playing with it. He had like 5 songs downloaded, he had some games, solitary and things like that, but they weren't able to use it for phone calls yet. They might now, I don't know. But also I seen a couple different county jails, they introduced tablets as well, and I think one of the county jails you were able to make phone calls through them.
Yeah.
But I never actually personally got to see it yet.
Well, they just started.
But I know exactly.
Yeah, they just started the phone call thing about 6 months ago because of all the violence over the phones. You know, just you know, people hogging the phones.
Right.
You know, people trying to control the phones, and so it was getting bad. You know, real bad. And,
yeah. And then the way, remember I think I mentioned before about everything's done by race here. So The day room is by race. You know, anything you could think of is by race here. The day rooms, the phones, the showers, uh, the handball wall, the basketball court, the bars you work out with. Everything is segregated. Everything is by race. So even sometimes some gyms, well, we don't use the gyms no more, but it was so crowded. We're using the gyms for housing units. Only certain toilets, certain races could use,
Right.
certain sinks. Everything's by race. So like these two phones on this side of the building would be on the A side would be for whites and Southerners and Paisas and Native Americans, and then the other side would be for North, blacks, and Asians. You know what I mean? Right. So it just depends. And then sometimes the Native Americans will use. Sometimes the Native Americans will be with us using our stuff. It depends where you're at. I've seen it switched around before. So yeah, everything's by race. Bars, everything. You know, you're not allowed to do business. You can't do business. Now, keep in mind, things have changed now since the end of hostilities, where all these big guys are out of the shoes now. Before you couldn't do business. When I mean by business, you couldn't do anything open. Like you can trade food and stuff, but it had to be sealed. You couldn't give somebody off your tray if you're blacks and whites couldn't share. Whites couldn't share with Northerners. Northerners couldn't share with whites. Southerners and Northerners didn't share. Southerners and blacks didn't share. Something was open, right. So, but it was funny about all that though. They'll buy dope from each other and buy pills from each other, and it came out your ass and out your mouth. It don't make no sense. You know what I mean?
No sense at all.
It's crazy. Really, it's crazy.
Really, the only place that's segregated really is the chow hall, and it's not really that. I told you when I first got to prison, the blacks were on one side, the whites were on the other side. Now it's just groups.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go and sit at a table that had blacks at it or Mexicans at it. I'd go and sit with a table that had whites at it, and that really depended on what white people it were. I ain't just gonna sit down with any white person. There's somebody that's
right.
Yeah, one of those cases. No.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's the thing over here in Cali. Those people ain't gonna be on the yard. 8 times out of 10, they're not going to be on the yard. Now, if they have something from some way back when that might have been hiding somewhere, somehow, or they did something behind the walls that maybe somebody ends up running into them later and pulls their card, something like that. But most part, those people that do those cases are not even on the GP lines no more. Pretty much California, they've always been pretty much protected, especially since I came through the system.
Well, when I first got to MSP, there was no snitches, no people with messed up cases or anything like that allowed on the yard. If you found out you was one of those, you was taken care of. Well, over time, it kind of changed. They'll still run them off the yard. I seen one guy accidentally beat one to death like a couple years before I got out. But now what people tend to do, because you can get a hate crime for it, as well as a regular charge, what people tend to do is extort them. You're gonna be on the yard, you're gonna have to pay me,
Exactly. But see, what I see what's wrong with that is that a lot of these dudes that do that, instead of putting hands on them, they extort them. They mess up and it doesn't last long for them because they end up taking everything the guy got. I believe that if they're going say $100 a month, let them keep $20, something, because you're gonna take everything they got. They're gonna be like, they're gonna tell, man, but if you let them leave them with something, I think that's better to go that route. But
almost every one of them are rats, almost every one of them will tell, those with messed up cases. So you got, I tell people, when I was in there, you gotta be careful doing this shit, because me and another dude was getting ready to go down on one, telling me he had to leave the fucking yard, and this dude came up to me, hey man, that's my hustle, man. He goes, I said, man, you gotta be careful about that dude will rat on you, and he goes, I know what I'm doing, and it wasn't long, he was in the hole. He told his people called the prison, and they put him in the hole.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I heard you say a minute ago about there was nobody telling, no funny cases, but Not about
why.
the funny case, about the telling though. You mean it's not openly known because there's always somebody telling. I don't
Oh
care if
yeah,
it's a GPR or not.
yeah. Nowadays,
How you think you can find out every freaking thing? Yep.
it used to be. I should have been more specific. It used to be like when I first came down, anybody that was known
Yeah.
was on the yard. But like you said, some you don't know. Some of them's doing that undercover shit, sending little kites,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, they used to have in the buildings they had porters. There's 3 shifts, right? So well, 3 watches they call it. First watch is 10 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning. Second watch is 6 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And third watch is 2 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night. So they used to have porters, and then the way they do it with the porters is every car has a porter. So there's at least one Southerner, one Northerner, one Paisa, one white, one black. You know what I mean? And maybe one Native American, and one Native American. So they cover everybody, right? And then you would have that for 3 watches. So they used to have guys who used to work at night, but they would only have a couple guys. They eliminated that because guys are getting pressured because they're too close with the cops at night. There's
Right.
nobody there to witness nothing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly. Well, then when I first came down, you didn't talk to the guards, and if you did, you had somebody with you to make sure you wasn't telling.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. And but I was going to
Right.
ask you about,
A shadow. Yeah.
yeah, just to make sure everything's straight. But I was going to ask you, what if somebody
Right.
came in California system and I'd say he was Asian, or he was somebody that wasn't any other races, and he was the only one there? How you guys treat him?
Well, because of where the area I'm from, there's a lot of Asians
Oh, all
like
right.
in Stockton. So there's always Asians locked up. Yeah, there's always Asians locked up. But when you get to the system, uh, uh, Asians, Samoans, Tongans, Hawaiians, Filipinos, even now, Afghanis, Pakistanis, they're all Indians, Punjabi Indians, Hindu Indians, they're all together because
Oh, wow.
India is part of Asia. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
yeah, so most likely, like I had mentioned before, if you're not black, white, Mexican, or uh, uh, Native American, then you're another. So that's a bunch of different nationalities. You know what I mean? But
Right.
the Islander, that's usually you'll see somebody. You know what I mean? But if he's by himself, say he's the only one there, then somebody will, somebody has to lace him up because then it would be probably Northerners would lace him up or some blacks. They would tell him, this is our side over here. Showers, phones. They would have to because they wouldn't want they wouldn't want to see that guy get himself in a wreck. You know what I mean? I
Right.
remember one time we came out, me and my celly we were in the hole, and we got kicked out to the yard, and it was they kicked out 27 of us, and we happened to go to the building by ourselves. Everybody else went between the other 4 buildings, and we were the only ones in there. I get the porter job because I was doing halftime. He was doing 85%, so he was considered A to B. He could go to night yard. He couldn't go to weekend yard. I was A1. That means I got an assignment. Okay, so we come out. Before we even get to come out, we're on CTQ for 3 days. When we come out for showers, we didn't know. Nobody was in that building to school us. None of the blacks told us nothing. So we just got in the first shower. It was open. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my celly was in first, and then I went in next. And after we got out, they were asking us, "Are you guys Paisas? Are you guys Southsiders?" And we're like, "Nah." But they still didn't tell us we were in the wrong shower. We were using the wrong showers. We put it together later on.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a trip.
Right.
Yeah, when we came out the hole, our hair was long because we didn't have no access to clippers. So I guess that's why they asked us if we're Pisces first.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so we had to figure that out on our own. But I wouldn't let nobody. I would do my best. If I seen a one guy there drive up and he has no allies there, or he has not allies, but he has nobody from his car, then I would take it upon myself to school him.
Right.
Best I could.
Well,
Yeah.
I was young guys coming in, me and a few others, the older guys, we always tried to school the young ones coming in, on how to do time and stuff. It's different in California. You don't have to be with a certain race or anything, but we would tell them you don't want to be hanging out with them because people are going to think there's something funny is going on. You know what I mean? Like if you see a white boy,
Yeah.
if
And then
you see a white guy hanging out with a bunch of blacks, you think, oh, he's got a little sugar in his tank.
oh, that's not happening here. That don't happen.
Right.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, you cannot. There's boundaries. You can't cross them when you're on the yard. Yeah, you could talk to somebody in passing if it's business or something like that, but you're not going to be over there hanging out in the blacks area and you're white. You're not going to be a southerner hanging out in the black area with the blacks.
That's kind of
with the blacks. They're not going to be doing any of that. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying about the sugar in the tank and all that, because that's usually, you see the stories like that guy from I don't remember where. I think he was from Dallas originally, and he got busted up near Chicago. And he killed all those nurses. And then when he went to the pen, they made him a punk, and he had tits and all that. I don't know. You ever seen that dude?
No,
I can't think of his name right now. He had killed a bunch of nurses. They were at like a school, and they were like in a dormitory, and he killed like 6 of them, and one of them lived, and she played dead, and then she pointed him out. And it happened sometime in the late '60s, I want to say. Wow. And this was in Illinois, and then he got busted, and then they showed a video of him in a holding tank with a bunch of black dudes, and that's what he was. He was one of the dudes punks. Right. And he had tits, and he was like feminine now. Right. Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about, but that's not tolerated here no more. There's some yards that are general pop, but they're considered soft yards. Right. And I'm pretty sure that sometimes those people hit those yards, but for the most part, any sweet thing or anyone, any Sagoonies, right. Homosexuals, they're especially the flamboyant one, they're on the protective custody yards,
Right. A lot of them are here too.
There's just so much.
A lot of them are here too, but the ones who are not, they kind of like got their own little group. You know what I mean? They all hang together, and you don't go around talking to them and stuff. And it's not because you're homophobic or anything. It's just that you get talking and hanging out with them, people's gonna think you're one of them. You're into that.
Bad look. It's a bad look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bad look. They got a PC gang over here called Gay Boy Gangsters.
I heard about that.
GBGs, they go by.
Yeah. I heard about that.
I mean, I seen it on TV. I seen it on TV on one of the lockup shows. But
I saw that too. I saw the same one. I could.
Yeah, that's the only time I've seen it. Yeah, I've never seen it in person.
And I've heard people talk about it, but I'm thinking,
Trip.
Wow, man. But there was a couple of them out in the yard when I first got to prison at MSP at the walls, and these dudes, they may have been gay, but they was not soft. They will stick you, yeah. They'll put in their work, they don't cause trouble. They don't go looking for trouble. They ain't trying to hit on anybody really. But if you mess with them and they don't want you messing with them, you might get something you don't want,
Yeah. I believe they do cause trouble because it might not be deliberately out loud, but they eventually start causing trouble between men, and that's why they're not wanting them.
Yeah.
I mean, with their behavior and stuff. But what's really bad is, like you mentioned, these guys can fight. Yeah.
I've seen that later on in other prisons like Farmington, where I've seen people fight over them, man. I'm thinking, geez, man, you're fighting over another man.
Yeah.
I can't understand.
Another person's son.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Fighting over another person's son, another person's brother. What I was going to say is another thing is, besides it looking bad by you talking to them and mingling with them, it really looks even worse when you get your ass whooped by one of them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's a bad. Yeah, that looks bad for you, because majority of them know how to fight, because they've been gay all their life. They've been mistreated all their life, for whatever reasons, and they learn how to fight. No matter however it looks, they'll fight. You know what I mean? A lot of them.
Hey, we're running out of time. You want to do another one tomorrow? Because we're right in the middle of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I knew from the beginning it was going to be at least 5 parts. Right. At least.
Are you?
We haven't even scratched. We haven't even talked about the daily routine yet of
right. So will you be?
the car I ran with. I mean, things like that.
We'll do that tomorrow. You be available tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, probably around the same time or a little bit earlier. I don't. It depends.
Or
I don't
just
know if you're working tomorrow or what, but you
just
could do
call
it a
me.
little bit earlier
Yeah,
if
just
you
call
want.
me.
You can.
Yeah, just call me and let me know.
Okay.
And, I should be free tomorrow.
Okay. So you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hit you a little bit earlier. Whatever you might need to do, and then whatever might come up or I need to do, we can take care of it and then be ready sometime kind of early. That's cool.
I'm really enjoying this. Really, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying.
I did a little thing. I did a little thing like I was telling you earlier with Luke GTV. I don't know
Yeah.
if any of your viewers, subscribers know who he is, but go check him out. I did the first prison interview with him yesterday.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
I kind of broke down each one of my terms a little bit. Yeah, so it was cool. He's got a small channel too. He's got like 700, almost 800 subscribers. You know what I mean? So
I'll go check
us
him
smaller
out.
channels, we're trying to,
Try and help him.
yeah. Luke, Luke GTV.
I'll go check him out.
All right. I mean, he's a pretty cool kid. He came out on Blood on the Razor. Yeah, he came out on Blood on the Razor Wire like 2 weeks ago.
All
yeah.
right.
All right, Harvey. Thanks for having me on, man. It was a pleasure.
Respect, man.
Yes, sir.